Welcome to the Moses Kotane virtual lecture on a Friday. Today we are very excited that we bring you our very own Dr. Sithwalo. He will be talking to us about preparedness for future industries in KwaZulu-Natal. Dr. Sithwalo is Manager Research at the Moses Kotane Institute. He was previously a Senior Research Specialist at the Human Sciences Research Council. He holds a PhD in Education with a thesis titled Preparedness of Municipal Workers' Job Behavior and Performance at Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality. Dr. Sithwalo has studied at Fort Hare, Rhodes, Wits, and Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. He holds 18 peer-reviewed publications and 2 non-peer-reviewed publications. This one, colleagues, is one of the best that we have, and today we bring to you, over to you, Dr. Sithwalo.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. July, for the introduction. Today we'll be talking about preparedness for future industries in KZN, and this study was as a result of a challenge that was identified with respect to the underpreparedness for new and the prevailing world order in the industry. This was as a result of the changes that the industry was experiencing, such as, for instance, deindustrialization, digitization, and related factors. So because of those things, they translated to the workforce being underprepared for the changes that had undertaken. So what we are going to do today is just to get an overview of the changes that I'm talking about, and to look at the projections that have been made by scholars and practitioners in various industries. We'll also be talking about the expectations that are there in the different sectors, and also as to how we may prepare for those expectations, because they require different sets of skills, knowledge, resources, and experiences. We must acknowledge that talking about the future is rather a challenge, because when we talk about the future, it's something that is unknown. And there are several predictions that have been made, and some of them were correct, some of them were proven to be incorrect. The case of Kodak, for instance, we may recall that Kodak was one of the big companies in the area of cameras, particularly digital cameras. But because of their lack of understanding of the industry needs and direction, they miscalculated the trend which the digital camera industry is taking. As a result, they were almost out of business, because at some stage they filed for liquidation, which then is described by Judik that the wrong prediction by Kodak was nothing but just a blind optimism, because they thought that they will continue to be leaders in the industry, yet things changed, yet they were not prepared for such. So talking about the future industries, I then wanted us to have a quick look at some of the predictions that had been made, some of which missed the mark. The one, for instance, relating to computers and the internet was by the CEO of Microsoft, who argued that there's no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share. This obviously is disputed by the dominance of the iPhone in the current era. And with respect to cell phones, for instance, to communication, for instance, Marty Cooper argued that cell phones will absolutely not replace local wire systems. you remember the telecom wire systems, the poles and those wires that cut across the nation. Cell phones are now replacing those. So this is to show that there are a number of predictions that were made, but they are proving to be false with time. With regard to transport, for instance, in Britain, it was argued that the horse is here to stay. So said the chief, the president of Michigan Savings Bank, who was giving counseling to the Ford company, consoling them that the horse is here to stay, but automobile is only a novelty, only a fad. So these are the predictions that were made. And with respect to, for instance, entertainment, it was argued that the cinema is little more than a fad, is canned drama. What audiences really want to see is flesh and blood on stage, and you can tell how much difference there has been in this regard. So this is just to show that when we talk about the future, we talk about something that we do not know for sure. A lot of things can go wrong, but there are a number of factors that determine how we predict the future. The scenarios, for instance, that we make would be based on a number of things. So what I'm going to do now is to do a sector analysis to demonstrate how each sector is getting its evolution, the things that are happening in each sector and how things are changing, and based on what those practices are, or the dominant practices are per sector, then we can tell that this is the direction this particular sector will take. If we take the agricultural sector, for instance, we would note that the traditional practices in this sector are furrow irrigation, manual sorting of vegetables and fruit, for instance. And this is changing because the industries in this sector that are or may be uncompetitive or obsolete include the industrialization of and also animal agriculture system, plastic packaging supply, and this is changing as a result of a number of factors such as climate change, for instance, because there's a reduction in the use of plastics, and the manner in which food is produced, for instance, is also changing because there's now a concept of food as software, that is food engineered by scientists at molecular level and uploaded to databases that can be accessed by food designers anywhere in the world. So this is the direction that food preparation is taking. In precision agriculture, for instance, and drones technology are also taking further ground in this sector. With respect to mining, we know that coal, oil, and gas extraction are the traditional practices, but these are gradually changing because the manual sorting, weighing, and sampling and inspection, which is taking place, is being taken over by drones technology. And there are pros and cons to all these things because with the introduction of drones technology, there is the safety part, for instance, because mining is a dangerous activity, but with the use of drones going underground, it is a safer way rather than the loss of human lives that we've experienced. So this is one technology that is overtaking the manual practices in the mining industries. Robotics and sensors are also increasingly being used and will continue to be used in the sector. In manufacturing, mechanics and diagnostics have been traditionally done by human beings. Now this is changing. There are now automobile testers and salespersons are actually doing their job now and have been doing that for a while. But those may be replaced going forward because, again, robots are taking charge of this sector. They are being used for material handling, processing, operations, and assembly and inspection. And there's also the introduction of robotic engineers and automated car diagnostics, which would then replace the human beings that are doing the diagnostics. In the utilities sector, this is how the sector is evolving. From fossil fuels, there is now an increasing need for the reduction of CO2. And the use of coal, for instance, is increasingly being discouraged, and green energy or renewable energy industries are now being promoted. And the use of smart grids for electricity, gas, and water are now replacing these traditional industries that are emitting substances such as CO2. In construction, we know that bricklaying and stonemasonry was done by, or is currently being done by human beings, and the manual handling of material and construction operations. But this is being undertaken by drones technology, robotics, and 3D printing is gaining ground, because there are now 3D printing construction methods such as robotic arms, and green buildings are now replacing the traditional buildings that we know of brick and mortar. So this is the trend that the construction sector is moving to. And with respect to transport and storage, the use of driver-operated vehicles, trains, and cargo is now being replaced by autonomous or driverless vehicles, and there is an emerging culture of sharing economy. The case of Uber, for instance, is one example in that regard, because of the practices that are taking place and the direction which the sector, the transport sector, is moving. With respect to finance, real estate, and business services, we had experienced a physical payments system and bank tellers and cashiers, and this is gradually being replaced by telemarketing, and bank tellers are replaced by internet banking, cashiers are replaced by self-serving payment services that we make from the comfort of our homes. And the emerging or potential future industries in this sector are your blockchain financial transactions, digital banking, robotics, digital currencies such as Bitcoin, and personal financial management system, and automated financing and accounting systems. In the services sector, we had physical doctor-patient diagnostics, for instance, and video and videos, that is the retail and rental, being done as traditional industries. But this, we note, for instance, the demise of the video industry, the rental and retail of videos. We know, for instance, of many video stores that have closed, because we now watch our movies online on our phones at home and anywhere. Therefore, there's no need to rent a video anymore. Digital healthcare is replacing the physical manual healthcare, because diagnostics can now be done telephonically or over miles of a distance, because the doctor and patient no longer have to be at the same place for diagnosis to be undertaken. This is enabled by a number of technologies in this regard, including drones technology and sensors that are used by healthcare practitioners, and the increase in the online doctor-patient diagnosis is taking place. And this was pretty evident during the height of the COVID-19 situation, wherein patients were discouraged from visiting doctors due to the exposure they would have. So the online doctor-patient interaction was encouraged. With respect to the wholesale and retail trade sector, physical shops, as we know them, are now being replaced by retail stores. There is an increase in terms of online retail, and there's also a change in terms of producer to consumer retail operations because the relationship between the producer and the consumer is now being changed by the current systems and the new ways of doing things. In the tourism and hospitality sector, we had travel agents, tour operators, and tour guides. Now, digital tourism is taking place. Travel agents, tour operators, and tour guides are now being replaced by apps that you just have on your mobile device and other digital forms of self-service. And the sharing economy, which includes your Airbnb, for instance, with respect to accommodation, your Uber when it comes to transport and other forms of sharing economy, are now taking shape. And these are things that you do without the involvement of a travel agent. And this is also enabled by the use of artificial intelligence for customer services. In the ICT sector, the simple tasks that were done on a computer by computer specialists are now being automated. So there's an automated computer support and repair services that is replacing the manual services wherein you would have to consult your IT specialist to assist you with IT related tasks. So you can do this online yourself or get the help via a remote form of assistance. So the Internet of Things is now taking over in this regard, and the jobs that are being created as a result of this change is platforms development and management, because a number of platforms are now being created to serve this industry. So that is just a picture of how the sectors are evolving, and also the kinds of new jobs that we can expect or that are beginning to emerge in the different sectors. And this is enabled by the fourth industrial revolution, which is characterized by digitization, for instance, robotics, artificial intelligence, and connectivity. This has created a number of changes which we need to prepare for in the different sectors. One example, for instance, that I've given is the case of the creative industry, whose model is being changed because the video market, which is your retail and rental, is now being replaced by mobile entertainment, such as apps that we have on our mobile devices. The sharing economy is also changing the manner in which production and consumption of services is undertaken. And also, there is also the bringing down of walls between industries, because in the past you would have your banking operating and telecommunications operating in silos. But now with cell phone banking, it has brought together these two industries, that is banking and telecommunication, because with cell phone banking, you bring both industries and make use of them from the comfort of your home. Retail and internet again are being brought together through online retail, among other things. So the silo mentality which had existed in the past is now being compromised as a result of the new ways of doing things. And there's a statement by Goods, who knows that the development of robotics, from robots doing jobs no one wants to do, that is your dirty jobs, to robots doing jobs that they can do more efficiently, to ultimately doing jobs unimaginable today i.e. your healthcare robotics. So this is just an indication of how much the robotics industry will take charge of our lives in a number of sectors. And according to the OECD, they argue that artificial intelligence enabled robots will become increasingly central to logistics and manufacturing, complementing and sometimes displacing human labor in many productive processes. So given these changes that I've outlined, the recommendations are that we therefore need to prepare the labor force with respect to the new skills that would be required by the different industries. We need, for instance, to work on, with respect to the hospitality sector, for instance, try to develop engineers in the area of food and software. We need to, in agriculture, we need to develop precision agriculturalists, drone scientists, robotic engineers, sensor developers, and many of the skills that I've outlined, like your blockchain specialist, sharing economy practitioners, and platform developers. So these are some of the skills that will be required in the different sectors going forward. And I thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. I think for me, there's one question. What does it mean for those who have mainstream skills? What does all of this mean to some of us who have skills that we acquired before the 4IR, for example?
I think we need to start with the fact that no skill is useless. All skills are important, but we need to be aware of the times, because the times in which we live require a different set of skills, different set of knowledge and expertise. So we need to build upon what we currently have, i.e. the skills that we currently have, to prepare the labor force for the skills of the future. So your skills required by the traditional industry are still important as a building block or a basis going forward. So we need to build upon those in preparation for the skills that are required for the future in the various sectors.
Thank you. I think a lot of issues that have come through is the fact that what are we getting prepared for in the institutions of higher learning and what the industry is currently demanding. There's a mismatch. And having to put new industries all together, already there's a mismatch. How then do you bridge the gap?
Interestingly, the issue of skills mismatch has long been debated. And there are several studies that have been undertaken by various institutions, such as the University of Cape Town, Human Sciences Research Council, and many other institutes, to try and make sense of the skills mismatch issue. And one study, for instance, that was undertaken by the Department of Higher Education and Training is on forecasting, skills forecasting, preparing understanding what skills would be required in the future, because the preparation of skills is not something that happens overnight. It has to be done over a certain period, 3-4 years. That's what it takes, for instance, to complete a degree. So the Department of Higher Education and Training had undertaken that project to get an understanding of the labor force, to understand what sort of skills would be required going forward. So we need to understand the skills that are demanded by the economy and skills that would be obsolete going forward. Those kind of studies need to be continually being done, because the industry is continually changing.
Thank you. But all of this, what are implications for basic education? What are future industries bringing to basic education? And they also disrupting that sector?
As it's often said, that innovation is disruptive. So With regard to basic education, this therefore means that we need to start from the beginning, because going through the education sector for 12 years requires that you come out of the system being prepared for whatever would come out, for whatever you do post grade 12. So it therefore means that from the onset in grade 1, the kids need to be taught about the current skills that are required, your robotics, your programming, your whatever kind of skills that are required today, because unfortunately, many of these skills require some of the subjects that we don't really like your maths and science. It therefore means that from the onset, from grade 1, the kids have to be properly taught these skills. They need to be given a proper culture of the maths and science subjects, for instance, because with appropriate teaching and attitude with respect to those subjects, it would then enable the kids, as young as they are, to embrace these new areas of learning.
Thank you. I think 2020 has been a very difficult year for conventional shopping and retail as a sector. And we found those disruptions, and those that have been ready with the online would have been at best position to deal with the impact of COVID. But for me, the question now is, how then do we ensure that industries themselves, in terms of skill, what can be done in order to make sure that the impact of transformation is not felt by the lowest workers within those industries?
Yeah, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that COVID-19 was a sweet and sour phenomenon. The sweetness part of it is with respect to the lessons that we've learned from this pandemic, that we need to be prepared for the future, and the future includes an increase in digital operations in all sectors. This means that for industries that were mainly based in premises, your manufacturing and others, including services for that matter, because if you look now, there's an increase in remote working. So this therefore means that conventional shopping is now being overtaken by, or even if it's not overtaken, but it's competing seriously with online shopping. And with the passing of time, it therefore means that online shopping will be a dominant practice going forward, which therefore means that the industries that are operating in this space need to prepare themselves adequately with respect to the infrastructure that is required in this regard, and all the requirements in terms of being ready to offer services in online form.
Thank you. Another question comes from Dawn. Is South Africa's stage of economic development ready for the 4IR skills? Are we not leapfrogging far too ahead when we require conventional skills such as engineering, agriculture, and services? So are we ready really for the 4IR skills? Are we not reaching far too much, leapfrogging far too much, when we are still having to use the conventional skills?
Okay. Let's say, for argument's sake, we say South Africa is not ready, therefore will not participate. 4IR does not give us a chance. It's not like it's a question of are you ready, therefore can you participate in the 4IR space. It is the time we are in. Therefore, it requires that we prepare ourselves for the time that we are in, so that we may not be left out and be found to be wanting. Therefore, it's not just a question of South Africa being ready or not ready. It's a question of us preparing ourselves to fit appropriately in the time in which we operate. It therefore means that with respect to 4IR, South African citizens, those who are at school and those who are out of school, need to prepare themselves adequately for operating in this era, because your simple things, for instance, done by our grandmothers, like the receiving of social grants, that is also changing because the systems are also changing. So receiving that kind of money does not necessarily require that you go to a pay point as it has always been done in the past, or to get your check as it was being done. So with these things, it shows that this is going to affect everyone, whether you are ready or not ready. So in order not to be caught off guard, we therefore need to prepare ourselves and make sure that with the changes that are taking place, we are proactive.
Thank you very much. Somebody once said, preparation meets opportunity is what is called luck. So I guess you are asking that people must go and find their luck by being prepared. As opportunities come with the new economies, with the digital economy, they come with all the technology that the 4IR brings. If you are prepared, the opportunities come. You might just be lucky and be one of those that will not be disrupted much in terms of surviving the current order, which is the intertwine of physical, digital, and the reality that we are living in. I think I would like to thank Dr. Twalo for coming through today. One thing for sure, Dr. Twalo, public speaking will not be disrupted. Human communication will not be disrupted. So I think it's something that we need to look at, to say, at least some of us who like talking, we will remain. 4IR will not move us away. So with that, I'd like to thank each and everyone for having come through. My name is Bongiwe July, Manager Innovation at the Moses Kotane Institute. Tune again next week, same time. I will upload the next coming lecture on our social media platforms and our website, which is www.moseskotaneinstitute.com. On our Instagram, you are Moses Kotane at 1905, and you can check us as Moses Kotane TV on YouTube. Thank you very much.